So we're finding the aerosols, the metal particulates, the weather engineering, whether it's scalar, ionic, or orgone, or the chi of the atmosphere. All of those can be used and leveraged to create weather events that are several standard deviations or outside what would be typically normal. Before jumping on the chemtrail bandwagon was I needed a motive. Without a motive, you can't say what they're doing and why they're doing it. You have to have a motive. So the agenda was drought. The agenda was to kill the storm, at least in that one particular spot. You can kill a storm in place. That's easy to do with HAARP. You just change the polarization, you change the ionization of the atmosphere, and the storm will fall apart. So it's very easy to add those particulates of aluminum, barium, and whatever else they want to put in there. And as you add heat to that, those particulates then radiate the heat into the atmosphere, and it warms. Let's just say the storms can develop more violently, more quickly, in places that are not necessarily as where you would expect them to be. And we've got technologies available to us now that can do, continent-sized projects. If you control the weather, you're going to control the planet. It's that simple. The work we're doing will provide cover for others to come out. And I'm most interested in whistleblowers.
Hi. The subject of chemtrails keeps coming up, or at least it came up while I was beginning my research on weather modification. I wasn't even a believer that they actually existed, that there was a trail separate from the regular condensation trail, and those trails being the chemtrails. And then we would have days like this, where you end up with a milky white sky actually existed. I became interested in the Space Preservation Act and in developing the Space Preservation Act when I learned that our administration in Washington was looking at a program called Vision 2020. And Vision 2020 actually is a program for the United States to dominate the world from outer space. The Department of Defense has been working at a facility in Alaska, which is doing research into effects of electromagnetic frequencies in the ionosphere. And that facility, which is called HAARP, has raised concern among many individuals about how this research would be applied.
Kind of clouds.
For example, we know that according to some of the research, as these energy pulses are directed into the ionosphere, they can have somewhat of an effect.
The sky was waffled even more than normal. And well, the bottom line was he said that silver dioxide is not harmful to the body. And that's the only thing they use in cloud seeding. And the thing that I've noticed after living in Reno for 4 years is that the more they seed, the less it rains, and wanted to know why that is.
When you put these particles into the air, because they're so small, moisture and ice crystals have a tendency to naturally gravitate towards these particles. If you heat the particles up, you can then carry the moisture to a higher altitude where the jet stream will carry it further downstream like a conveyor. So you can prevent the rain from falling where it would normally fall. That's one of the reasons.
End game is aluminum dioxide in all the soils, where you've got to go to companies like Monsanto. They're coming out with whole seed lines that will grow in aluminum poisoned soil. But that's only part of it. It's about the seed banks, the seed arcs, all of this. It's about weather weapons, shutting down regions that don't play ball. They're already talking about a Chicago mercantile system that will bet on the weather. Well, it's going to be a rigged casino. They don't set up casinos without...